We're gonna get started. So first thing I want to remind you all is three things this week: the CATME survey, final teaching evaluation if you haven't done it already, and the course reflection essay. All right, all those things are due by end of day Friday. One other thing, just a piece of housekeeping. I looked at the elevator pitch rankings that you all did, and the top score was achieved by Blue Conduit. And the second score was achieved by ShotSpotter. Congratulations. And also Blue Conduit gets the extra credit because they did it from memory. Wow. Okay. So this is your final presentations, of course, and we're calling this the student-led urban entrepreneurship seminar because the students are presenting the results of their work this semester. We usually just call this final presentations, but it's really more than that. To dress it up a little bit. So Emma will be taking over our IA, and then the students will be doing their thing. So I'm an instructor, D.Cipher. I know you all. We have one person who didn't make it. So I took his shirt back and everything. Notebook and everything. Mr. Barnett here is my advisor in the course. He's a volunteer advisor, helps me out a lot with the course. And so he's year after year. We've been doing this since, what, 2014 or so?
Yes.
Yeah. And then Emma Farisi is our IA this semester. She's done a tremendous job. So round of applause. And so we have our 7 urban entrepreneur partners who the students cooperated with or worked with. They cooperated with us. They were a resource for us this semester. Blue Conduit, right here in Ann Arbor, does predictive modeling for, well, you'll hear what all these people do. Boaz Bikes, D.Cipher from Detroit, Emcura Medical from Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, Good Cakes and Bakes from Detroit, ShotSpotter Technology, Newark, California, and Vibride from Detroit. ShotSpotter is a repeat urban entrepreneur partner for us. Sometimes we go back and we reintroduce, we work with a business that we worked with before. And so this semester, ShotSpotter was in that role. They always tend to do a good job for us. Our review panel, Christy Bayer. She's Program Director for the Detroit Neighborhood Entrepreneurship Project here at Michigan, connecting the university with all kinds of entrepreneurial needs in the city of Detroit. We have been working with DNAP, and we'll be working with them, taking advantage of this resource going further because it helps to have somebody out there helping us identify businesses that we can work with in the course. Stephanie Jones is the lead counsel for GM growth operations, and Stephanie has worked with us, 2 or 3 times already.
It's lucky number 3.
Yeah, so this is great, and Stephanie, in addition to being a honcho over there in the GM legal department, she's a Detroit person. And so, she knows the city and the neighborhoods and so forth. So she's a really good person to have as part of this endeavor. And Ken LaCroix, is it LaCroix or Lacroix?
It depends. It depends. If you go back to my father's side of the family, they'd say LaCroix down in the south.
Oh, yeah. LaCroix, okay.
But it's LaCroix.
Louisiana?
Alabama, Louisiana.
Okay.
It's
So Ken is also with the legal department at General Motors, senior counsel, GM vehicle growth operations and global product development. So if you guys are interested in a job in EVs, GM, you got 2 people to talk to. And James Rose couldn't make it. James Rose, Reggie's friend.
Oh, my friend now.
I met James actually just earlier this year, and he's the lead managing director with Deloitte for the Ford account. And I met him in town, and we got to talking. And it turns out he worked with Reggie at IBM, so that's why I say, "Oh, Reggie's buddy." Okay, so that's our review panel. We're very appreciative of you guys coming, spending hours doing this for us tonight. And congratulations to the students. You guys put in a lot of work this semester. It's not easy to be in a course where you have to come with 3 hours, on at night. And this course is a little different because it requires you to engage with people out there in the community and to tackle some concepts that maybe you don't see in other courses. So I really have had fun working with you guys this semester, and looking forward to seeing what you present tonight. I get to just sit back tonight, so I'm looking forward to that. I have a thought for tonight, and I just thought of this since last night. I was listening to Senator Raphael Warnock's acceptance or his victory speech last night, and something he said just struck me, and it made me think about the class. He said, "You can't lead the people unless you love the people. You can't love the people unless you know the people. You can't know the people unless you walk among the people. And you cannot serve me if you cannot see me," right? And to me, I thought about customer discovery. And the fact that, in this class, you had to step outside of yourself and, to do some things that might not have been comfortable for you, and to learn some things that, as I say, maybe you didn't learn in other classes. So I think that being able to bring your talent, your professionalism to serve communities, regardless of what field you're in, thinking of it as service and thinking of it as the result of effective engagement, I think is something that will take you a long way. So again, I really appreciate having the opportunity to work with you all this semester. So I'll turn it over to Emma. We'll get going. Oh, so yeah, you're gonna tell people about this.
Yes, so in front of you, you have a review sheet that you'll all be filling out and then turning into me at the end of the night. I will be compiling all of those scores for you all so you get your feedback. And then here is like a little agenda for the night, which, by the way, our entrepreneurship center here at University of Michigan is ranked 2nd in the entire world. So you should feel great that you're a part of something that nice. But tonight's agenda, we start with our welcome, and then our first presentation is going to be Vibride. They get 10 minutes to present, 5 minutes for Q&A. Teams, you're going to get alerts at 2 minutes and at 1 minute to kind of keep track of your time. That's going to be by me over in the corner. And then we're going to go to ShotSpotter, Good Cakes and Bakes. We'll take a little break, get some snacks, walk around, stretch. Then we do Emcura, D.Cipher, Boaz, Blue Conduit. Everyone submits their score sheets, and then we'll listen to our professor give us some final remarks. All right, so up first, that's our process, Vibride. Let's start. So you guys can come on up, I'll load your presentation.
Oh, by the way, be sure to stand between the 2 screens. Between that screen and that screen. You don't want to stand in front of the screen or you won't be seen. No. Between the small screen and the big screen.
Yeah, all on the left side.
All on the left side, yeah. Otherwise, you won't be in the picture.
Yeah, our urban entrepreneurship partners are on Zoom, so that just allows them to also be able to see you.
Hi everyone, we're Vibride, and we're really excited to talk to everyone today about our amazing company. So to begin, I want to start off.
I'm on the gas, you smoke dirt. Hey, I put in work, I make it work. I can do racks, feel like a serve. Hey, just tryna add it up, bitch, I feel like a nerd. Hey, roll you the wheels, hit the gas in the skirts.
So to kind of give everyone a little bit of a background, the United States and especially Detroit is seeing a major issue where residents aren't really feeling motivated to exercise, and this is causing two main issues. The first one being a physical issue, which actually 1 in 3 residents in Detroit are suffering from obesity. And second, it's also a mental health issue, which because it has been shown that studies have seen that exercising daily can improve depression by 30%. So our solution is Vibride. Vibride is a boutique fitness studio in downtown Detroit that promotes inclusivity in the wellness space. We offer a low-impact, high-intensity workout with a variety of classes at a low cost available any day on the week depending on your vibe. So, we're really different from other workout studios because we're much less expensive and we're giving residents this personalized feel to come in and want to work out every day. Additionally, we are really well known for our high technology. Here you can see our app on the right. Additionally, for our performance IQ. You are able to see your statistics from your class in real time on the TVs in our classes. Additionally, you can look at your statistics and how many calories you burned after class to review and see if you want to make any improvements for the following classes. Additionally, we have a great relationship with our suppliers who gives us amazing high quality bikes at a lower cost. So Vibride is much more than your typical fitness studio. It is a movement that is empowering Detroit to stay on its health and fitness journey.
So getting into how the business actually makes money, we broke down Vibride's total revenue into 4 separate revenue streams. So the biggest contributor to Vibride's total revenue is our unlimited membership packages, which go for around $99 for 3 months. Their second biggest contributor is their individual classes, which are roughly $20 to $22 per class, as well as bulk offerings that sell a lot as well. The last 2 contributors are private classes, which have a range of different pricing, and then their retail business, which is both online and in person. They sell a variety of apparel and fitness gear, as well as retail products from local small businesses that they partner with.
And next you might be wondering what the fitness studio market really looks like. So for the 32 billion number up top, that's the total annual revenue across the entire United States made by fitness studios each year. We started to narrow it down, and the 675 million is just in Michigan. And then we broke down what we think is really attainable for Vibride just in Detroit. And so we cut the total revenue of Detroit fitness studios in half and think that that's something we could possibly take over as Vibride in the future. How we want to do that and grow across Detroit specifically is we want to focus on the experience that we create. By advertising our exciting classes, the fitness tracking app, and our wonderful experienced trainers, and then putting that out into the online sphere through Facebook marketing and online marketing of different kinds, we can really bring people in and show off our accessibility that brings people together, such as the inclusivity, forming new communities, and having an affordable program.
So shown here are some quotes extracted from our interviews. These really are meant to just highlight the key findings from our customer discovery, which allowed us to both validate the current business model and give us suggestions for the future. So some things that we heard from people who cycle at other studios is that they wished it was more affordable, they wish they felt a greater sense of community, and they wish that they could see their statistics. So that was great for us to hear because Vibride does pride themselves for being super affordable, and as discussed before, they have that PIQ. We were also able to connect with a loyal customer with Vibride yesterday who was talking to us about how she drives over 30 miles 6 times a week to get there and uses different amenities in the studio such as their sauna and buying other products that they have up for retail. She was able to tell us that she has formed a really great and strong relationship with the different instructors and other frequent riders there, so we were able to see that there's a great sense of community at Vibride both in and out of the studio. And then other suggestions that we got were having genres for classes and a portal to request songs, which brought us into our suggestions.
So following our customer discovery process, we decided to incorporate the feedback that we received from peers and individuals who were participating in other classes as well as Vibride to come up with these different improvements for Vibride's current business model. So starting off with corporate partnerships, we believe that Vibride could profit by building relationships with corporations in Detroit and the surrounding area. By doing so, that will allow them to increase revenue by hosting a variety of private events and corporate events and potentially attract long-term customers as well through that. Secondly, we want to start hosting charity events, so partnering with local charities to boost that brand image and also create a positive impact for the surrounding Detroit community, which will in turn hopefully bring in more customers as well that can align with those values. Third, we want to introduce theme classes as well, which we believe will increase customer engagement by giving customers the opportunity to have a say in what goes on in their classes, both in terms of the overall theme and the song suggestions as well. And by doing so, like I said before, we'll increase customer engagement, which will ultimately increase customer retention and hopefully lifetime value as well.
So to finish off, we wanted to just talk about some suggestions we had for recommendations. So for corporate partnerships, we would say a good starting place would be to develop relationships with those corporations and book those group classes to hopefully bring in potential new loyal members. For charity events, partnering with local charities and then scheduling community events or even community rides to increase sales and revenue. And then lastly, sending out customer surveys to gauge interest on different themes for classes, which would increase customer satisfaction and retention. And we want to take this time to give a special thank you and shout out to Latricia for her guidance and help this semester and just getting us all the information we needed to make this project possible. Thank you.
We'll open the floor to questions now.
Well, first questions will come for our panelists, and then we'll open up to our urban entrepreneurship partners, and then we'll go to our peers for questions.
You wanna go first?
Sure, I have a question. So, you mentioned that there was a range of different pricing for classes and that you were looking at the affordability and how it sort of is a draw for potential riders. What did you discover about their pricing models that you found interesting or that you thought they could change?
To be completely honest, simple enough. It really just comes down to the pricing. In terms of competitors, and I mean the other studios that people are using right now, they just have prohibitively, like significantly more expensive classes, which was a big deterrent for people who wanted to participate in those classes but just couldn't afford it. So VibeRide's pricing model, I mean, it's simply more affordable. I don't necessarily think that it impacts the overall business because they, in the beginning, it's really just those fixed costs of buying the bikes and the studio itself. And ultimately, if they can just get enough people in, they'll make the money that they need to kind of like offset that discounted cost. But yeah, to be honest, I think it's just a simple like pricing differential because other places charge a lot more.
Okay, thank you.
What neighborhood is this in Detroit?
Downtown Detroit.
I've got a few. So back to the pricing, you had the breakdown of the 45, 25, 15, 15 based on unlimited. Which is from a margin perspective, which one's the best? I'm assuming either the unlimited or retail, probably actually private, is maybe the highest margin. I'm just trying to figure out, is going partnership route, is that going to, I'm just wondering, are the margins high enough in the ones that are feeding the other opportunities? I'm assuming the unlimited is not as high margin. I'm just trying to understand that piece.
So to break it down, I'm sure that the individual classes are probably the most profitable because if you're charging people on an individualized basis. But again, for context, there aren't that many classes throughout the day. There's anywhere from like 3 to 5 classes throughout the entire day, which means that the studio is completely open for new opportunities.
Yeah.
And by doing a partnership, we could utilize the studio outside of those normal class times. So it's not really like affecting the margin of the other classes because it's just like additional profit or additional revenue generated since we're not using the studio in those times that they would be using for corporate events.
Then and then that ties into the corporate partnerships, and you were talking about develop relationships with certain corporate partners. Have you come up with like a selection model? Have you looked at hey, these companies are the ones based on their sustainability reports, they're looking at mental health as a priority, they're probably a good target? Like I'm just curious if it's gone to that level.
So for the first step of forming the relationships with the local partnerships, maybe like a prerequisite to that would be doing the research on like which companies they'd want to target first.
And then you mentioned something about saunas and other kind of, well, call amenities that are available. Are those revenues that are coming into the business? Like, are those adjacencies that they can leverage, or is that something separate and apart from what they do?
So the sauna is actually fairly new. It was just installed a few weeks ago, so they're still working on entirely deciding on how that works. I think as of now, it's sort of in combination to individual classes for particular people. Like it is an additional revenue stream, but it is extremely new, which is why we didn't feature it because it'd be a relatively small percentage of the total revenue. But to answer your question, yes, it's essentially like in addition to everything else.
And has it shown that these? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to add on really quickly because I was able to speak to Susan, one of Vibride's biggest customers, and she goes to the sauna every single Friday after class, and she says it's the best part of her entire week. So it's like a complete distressor. They have like red light therapy and Bluetooth so you can play her music. So she's really claimed that was like one of the big benefits of her coming in on a day she doesn't work and really just honing in on the sauna. And apart from that, they also offer showers, and then there's razors, hair supplies, like anything you need that a really high-end studio would have, Vibride offers at a much lower cost.
And so I think, throwing that package in of here are all the adjacent benefits that we can throw in, still maintaining the low cost, and hopefully still, putting together a profitable formula for the company. I think that it all sounds good. Thank you.
I'm curious, I thought you were going a different direction when you were talking about corporate sponsorships. I thought you were gonna suggest a business-to-business change to try to get the company itself to pay for group fitness plans or something, and instead it seems like you're just more saying like, hey, will you make it available for the individual employees to pay for things? I'm curious about if you explored the other option.
So we were originally exploring sort of like a bulk discount for employees. I think there are other companies that do that, especially in like New York. I know that there's like big studios and gyms that do that. And then we decided to go with the route, which would be like private corporate events. Again, sort of to reiterate on my point before, to utilize the studio in times where it's not necessarily being used. Because, just having the studio there sitting and kind of collecting dust when it's not being used is just almost a waste. So being able to host like those, again, private events, but more corporate events, because it'd be corporate partnerships, would allow us to utilize the studio and ultimately generate more revenue through that way.
All right, and that is all we have for questions today. Thank you all. So up next, we're gonna have ShotSpotter. And in this time, you can all finish up your scoring on the papers.
We only have to pay like GM subsidizes it, which is, and then like tell like you guys go like Blue Cross. And that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Thank you.
Everyone, my name is Ruma Tahir. I am presenting ShotSpotter, and with ShotSpotter, we aim to detect, protect, and connect. ShotSpotter has two key products. It has the gunshot detection system, which is a hardware and AI software system that uses to detect gunshots and then alerts police officers on where they should deploy. And then the second is ShotSpotter Connect, which is a software tool that is used to manage and optimize police patrolling. And this system uses historical data to identify key crime hotspots. After our initial interview with our connections at ShotSpotter, we were told to focus on this product primarily, which is what we did this semester. Police patrolling today is not effective. There's currently 3 methods that are used. It's gut-based patrol, which is when police officers use their own intuition to patrol, and this isn't effective as it puts pressures on the officers and can often lead to biases. The second is when data is manually ingested, which is when officers use historical data, and this is also not effective as it can limit deployment saturation. And lastly, it's when they use demographic analysis, which is also not ideal as it also is subject to biases as it has to do with race, sex, and ethnicity within groups.
Looking at police patrolling today with ShotSpotter, it's directed patrolling, which means that you're able to see the patrols visually. It's patrolling based on crime data, taking an objective non-crime data, taking both spatial and temporal variables into account. That allows for them to have a more precise and efficient use of resources. And like we talked about before, the protection against bias is seen within ShotSpotter, as in some examples of how they do that are they kind of focus more on calls from the community instead of focusing on where police are generally more likely to patrol, and they also don't make decisions about they don't predict decisions of others and don't try to use their own biases to figure that out. All in all, that comes together to maximize crime prevention while guarding against over and under policing. It kind of allows for them to figure out a more efficient way to police their police. And in general, that kind of instills instills community trust and confidence in whatever law enforcement or government the communities are living in. ShotSpotter Connect is also an SaaS tool, which is a software as a service. So they license out the service to those who buy it. It provides fully automated directed patrols and pre-generated routes each day depending on the new policing data, which allows for them to be the most up-to-date with the current news and current situation that's going on within the community. Along with this, it allows for full shift reports on any police officer, which takes into police accountability, allowing to know where police are generally focusing their time and being able to look back and know exactly where a cop was at a certain time to kind of increase that accountability. And when looking at the industry that it's in the public security industry. This industry encompasses all the tools the governments use to keep citizens safe. It's a growing industry as cities are growing and the urban life is increasing. As that grows and there is an increased population, there's a positive correlation with increased crimes, and that's where the need for a tool like ShotSpotter comes in. Along with this, governments are expecting the technology to increase and continually evolve. So this is a way for that this is a way to kind of appease that need. Along with this, this public security industry is expected to grow from $434.7 billion right now to about $867.9 billion in 2023, according to Forbes. So there is a need for that is seen monetarily.
Yeah, and within this industry, ShotSpotter has a very interesting niche. Because ShotSpotter offers two unique products, one that's based on hardware and software for gunshot detection, and another that's entirely software-based for patrol management, they're able to find a really great integration between the two. Everything they have is built in proprietary hardware and software, many of which are backed by patents, and they're deployed in over 130 cities. Right now, their products are completely focused on prevention versus reaction. There are many times a ShotSpotter has been able to report to a crime scene before a 911 call has even been made. They're able to use data-driven insights based on historical data from the areas that they're patrolling in, and all of that data is the least susceptible to bias because they're not factoring things like race, ethnicity, or gender. Right now, they have no direct competitors, but they have some orthogonal companies in the industry, such as LexisNexis, eCitation, InTime, and eAgent. So let's take a look at their financials. ShotSpotter has a market cap of around $450 million right now, and most of that comes from their contract-based model. And so these contracts run from 1 to 5 years with governments and municipalities, and these customers are charged by the square mile, ranging from $65,000 to $90,000 per square mile. Right now, ShotSpotter Connect is 20% or approximately 20% of their total revenue, and we are looking to push that to being 50% of their total revenue so that ShotSpotter Connect and ShotSpotter gunshot detection have an equal footing within the company.
So for our customer discovery, we interviewed police officers from metropolitan areas or cities like Detroit, New York, Chicago, and Dallas. So one valuable conversation we had was with Todd. So a little background on Todd. He's a Detroit police officer. He is already experienced with using ShotSpotter product or ShotSpotter line products. And then he currently uses historical data to kind of influence where he patrols. And he personally wants to put in more tax money towards ShotSpotter products. So with our conversation with Todd, as well as other police officers, we found that a lot of police officers that already have knowledge and experience with using ShotSpotter products don't actually know the true benefit and impact of ShotSpotter Connect. So the biggest challenge that ShotSpotter Connect is facing right now is simply being able to market the product and truly showing the benefit and impact of this product. for a city. So some marketing improvements we think that ShotSpotter Connect can make is to create ride-along video content, partner with marketing agencies to allow police departments to like trial run the product, and also to focus their marketing toward police departments that already have ShotSpotter products like in their use, because this is where ShotSpotter Connect really shines as a product.
So these are our key team members that are working on ShotSpotter Connect. Paul Ames, Gary Bunyard, and Regan Davis. Paul leads the tech development of ShotSpotter Connect. Gary leads the sales and marketing of ShotSpotter Connect, and Regan leads the actual deployment of ShotSpotter Connect, and is also in charge of ensuring that customers receive the maximum value of the product. In terms of strengths and weaknesses of the team as a whole, the strengths are that they have a very clear vision of what they want to do with ShotSpotter, and they've developed an awesome product that fits in very well with their current product line. Weaknesses, as we mentioned, there's room for improvement in terms of marketing and just deploying that actual product to customers. So looking at ShotSpotter moving forward, these are some of the improvements that we mentioned previously. We mentioned putting out some ride-along content and partnering with news agencies to local news stations to sort of get that word out a little bit. And in addition to that, we just want to continue to work on expanding their customer relationship team and investing in a marketing growth strategy in order to reach our goal of pushing ShotSpotter Connect into more cities and eventually having ShotSpotter Connect make up about 50% of their total revenue. So we just want to say thank you to the ShotSpotter team and thank you guys for listening.
Ready? Okay. So I have a question. It might be a little unfair. So you talk about the business model, and you talked about that there were proprietary rights with the software as a service and the like. When you discussed their intellectual property or how they believe they have advantages, what did you learn about how they have things covered aside from patents?
Aside from patents. So the main research that we did is looking into, we actually literally went onto like Google research and Google patents, and we found everything that's filed underneath ShotSpotter. And so the main patents that they have right now are surrounding their gunshot detection, but that goes in tandem with the software that's integrated with it. So in terms of like actual patents, it's very hard to actually like patent software, but like they're able to license it, right? And that is licensed out to governments. So there's nothing proprietary about the software, but the software, you can't really take advantage of all of its features without being tied to the hardware that's on site that ShotSpotter deploys.
Question about that. I don't think I understand enough about the technology itself. You mentioned that this is intended to eliminate some of the bias by using objective historical data, but if the historical data is a result of biased behavior, which would be under or over policing in certain areas, then I don't know that squares.
Yeah.
So maybe I don't understand where the data is coming from.
Yeah, so along with historical data, that's just a part of the data that they use. They also use ShotSpotter, like gunshot detection data that's being collected around the city. And there is no bias when it comes to that because it purely uses machine learning and like sound detection to actually see if there's a gunshot happening or violence. So it combines like these two data points to be able to really like tell a police officer where to patrol. It's not just based on historical data.
Piggybacking off of that, you said there was a price like $65-90 per square mile, I think. So the customer decides which areas to cover to begin with, correct? And does ShotSpotter help them decide which areas to cover, or does the customer unilaterally decide, hey, this is what we think. These are the 10 square miles that we want to have covered because this is the problem area, whatever they want to call it, right? Like I think so. To the question being raised is, are they helping formulate which 10 square miles, or does the customer just decide and then it's just, if the message is we're eliminating bias, but the area that they're scoping is based on these preconceived areas of where the
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Okay, so
Yeah.
help me
So,
understand how this works.
We don't have a complete clear answer on this, but based on the research we've done, Detroit recently expanded their ShotSpotter network. And so the area that we're concentrated in before is the area with the highest population density. And we've seen that's been prioritized across the US in cities like San Francisco and New York. Governments like to start in areas with high population densities and expand from there.
Okay. So they just say, this is the highest population density, we're gonna put the
focus here first.
Yeah. And follow-up question to that, are there any regulatory or other hurdles that they have to overcome to be able to put all of this in place? Do they need, I don't know, right? I'm just asking, what are the significant, you talked about the strengths and weaknesses. What are the biggest hurdles you see for them to attain the market share that they can potentially achieve, given that, is it going to be public sentiment? Is it going to be policymakers' pushback? Where is their biggest challenge?
Yeah, so their biggest challenge right now is simply, so they have two different products. One is gunshot detection, which is from the citizen's perspective, that is much more surveillance-based because they're placing physical hardware in cities that are tracking gunshot detection. And so they face a pretty big barrier there because they have to convince policymakers that it's different city to city. So in a city like City A might say that hey, this is considered to be a high level of surveillance. This is not something that citizens of the city would support right now, so we're not going to move forward with that. But ShotSpotter Connect is interesting because it is purely software. There's no hardware on site. There's no surveillance being done. So there's a lot lower barrier to entry there. And the main barrier they face is just convincing customers that this is something that's going to make their police patrolling more effective and save them time and resources.
Yeah. Adding on to that, I think the biggest hurdle is just the community getting acceptance of it, more than the government at that point. There have been things in the news recently of the different communities kind of having trouble understanding or feeling that there is bias, or maybe or having trouble with the idea of the sensors being put in the cities to detect the gunshots.
Hence more efforts in marketing and customer awareness.
Yeah.
She's cutting you off, Ken.
No, cut me off. Every time.
All right, thank you guys.
5 minutes go fast.
I do have an idea for you.
All right, good cakes and bakes.
Get seated.
All right, hello everyone. We're Good Cakes and Bakes. My name is Sebastian Patino.
I'm Abby.
I'm Cushy.
I'm Vesta.
So I'm sure you all know the craving. You might be feeling a little lonely, or you just want to satisfy a sweet tooth, and a delicious homemade dessert sounds great, but you may not know how to make it, or you may not have the resources to do so. And so this is exactly what Good Cakes and Bakes is trying to solve. A lack of baking skills, resources, a reliable bakery, or even close family members leads to the lack of a simple commodity such as homemade desserts, something that people consume on a daily basis. And these issues lead to foregoing having dessert as a whole, or going and getting a low quality dessert such as in the grocery store, leaving you unsatisfied.
So we envision a future where consumers have a reliable place that they can go for a home-baked good when they're feeling lonely, that homesickness, or wanting to celebrate, but they don't want to feel guilty for indulging in a baked good. So we also envision a future where everyone can be included to have these sweet treats, even if they're vegan or have other dietary restrictions. And we want them to have that easy access where they know they can go to find it. And we just want them to have a place that they know they can go when they want to satisfy that sweet tooth and that craving. So Good Cakes and Bakes at a glance. It's a female Black-owned business. So April started the company in a local Detroit neighborhood because she saw that there was a need for a lot of African-American families in the area didn't have those family members to bake those homemade baked goods. So that's why they started in Detroit. And they've created a very strong sense of community. Like I said, local neighborhood bakery. But they've created a really strong customer base in Detroit, and they have very high customer retention. They also have started Facebook and Instagram pages on social media to kind of build that community and an online presence. They have a unique cooking style, so this sets them apart from other bakeries. They offer traditional Southern and African American style cooking options to be more inclusive of other cultures. And then they currently have a website online where you can go to see their current menu, place online orders, and they ship nationwide. So they have a very high reputation of delivering consistently fresh baked goods, even if you're buying in store or shipping it across the country.
So, Good Cakes, great market. We talked about the dessert, let's talk about the numbers now. So from growth from 2022 to 2026 is expected to be 10.54 billion internationally, and 37% of that accounts for North America. For Good Cakes and Bakes, after doing research, the total addressable market that Good Cakes and Bakes has is about $400 billion, and the serviceable available market is between $1 to $1.5 billion. They're also expected to bring in $1.5 million in revenue this year. We would say that this is a resegmented type of market. There's a lot of bakeries out there, and they all have the sole purpose of providing everybody with baked goods and all to satisfy their sweet tooth. But we kind of resegmented a little with Good Cakes and Bakes because not everything that we have is offered in different dietary restrictions. So if somebody's gluten-free or if somebody needs everything to be vegan, they don't have to just pick from a specific menu that only has these kinds of options. Everything is available, all kinds of dietary restrictions. It's at the maturity stage. We would not say that it's declining because the demand for baked goods is always going to be on the rise, especially for baked goods like this that satisfy everybody's requirements. So what makes Good Cakes and Bakes different? Our products, our partners, and our resources. So products, like I already said, everything is available. If you're vegan, if you need everything to be gluten-free, if you want a cinnamon roll, but it's, there's some things that you can't eat in the ingredients, you don't have to pick something else. You can still get a cinnamon roll, just in whatever dietary restriction you have. Our partners, we support Black-owned businesses in Detroit by selling their merchandise inside of our stores. We are also partnered with Goldbelly, which brings in a lot of revenue for us because they are the delivery service that we use. We also have Food Lab as one of our partners, which has provided us with grants and spaces in order to expand the business, and resources. So recently they have acquired a space where people could come in to bond from the community. People can come in to bond, and instead of just sitting there and chatting and eating our baked stuff, they can learn how to bake it themselves. So that also fulfills the need of people not being able to make homemade tasting desserts by coming to our space that we have, meeting other people in the community while also learning how to bake everything, and just fulfill their needs.
So how do we get, maintain, and grow shares? So GCB is committed to ethically sourcing fresh and organic ingredients that aims to reduce their target audience's fears of consuming toxic ingredients. They also have a unique African-American Southern cooking style that sets them apart from their competitors and really drives forward their value proposition. People should not be ignored for the sake of convenience, which is why Good Cakes and Bakes has a vegan option for every recipe on their menu. They also offer online ordering, pickup, shipping, and catering for their consumers' convenience. And they use Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for their marketing efforts and as a way to capture their audience's attention because that's where our audience is spending most of their time online. And then we maintain our sales by making the products accessible. No matter where you are in the US, you can go online, order a product from Good Cakes and Bakes, and it'll show up on your front step. They also make it personal. The rich, educational, and positive environment at Good Cakes and Bakes really combines Black and Detroit culture to provide a unique experience for their consumers that they might not be able to find anywhere else or at another bakery. And then they grow shares by expanding into different regions. So this is nationwide shipping as well as wholesale. And this really helps them gain a greater reach of their audience instead of just sticking to Detroit. So we talked about Good Cakes and Bakes positioning and their value propositions, but how does this differentiation really set them apart in a sea of bakeries, cafes, and beyond? So first up is going to be Avalon. Avalon is probably going to be one of their top competitors when it comes to wholesale. They also have 5 brick and mortar cafes or bakeries in Michigan, so that could strengthen their presence in the community. But we don't really see that as a huge threat because of Good Cakes and Bakes culture and the feeling of the homemade products that they have. For the love of sugar, they have some differentiating products like macaroons, cakes, and coffee, but that's actually pretty much it. Good Cakes doesn't offer macaroons, but they offer everything else. And then Sweet Potato Sensations not only has a sweet menu, but they also have a savory menu. But the only problem here is they don't have any vegan options like Good Cakes and Bakes does. And they have a section for online ordering, but last I checked, you can't really online order on their website. The Cupcake Station specializes in cupcakes, which may help target a specific niche in the community. However, they only have one vegan option for the cupcakes, so that really limits them there. And then you have your grocery store chains. Everybody's fighting for a spot on the shelf, but we think that this is a spot that GCB can definitely have with their value proposition and their whole, like being a female Black-owned business and combining the culture and the homemade style food.
Okay, so moving on to our customers. So in our customer discovery interviews, we got to ask a lot about what people really see in their go-to bakery and what keeps them coming back. So we can see that people really recognize the taste and how they're really excited about eating their good and how they really value an inclusive menu. When we're going back to Good Cakes and Bakes, we saw that Roland really enjoyed that friendly atmosphere. Ken really enjoyed the fact that the cakes tasted like his mom's cakes, and Richard enjoyed the fact that there was great quality and a great value. So after some investigating, we realized that people really want inclusivity. People want to be able to have options whenever they go into a bakery, whether that be with dietary restrictions or with price constraints. People want a nice ambiance so they can really enjoy the experience of going into a bakery and, come back with their friends and family in the future. And then lastly, people really want affordability. So people don't want to make their pockets hurt when they leave or they come into a bakery. They really want that to be part of their disposable income. And so a recipe for success is to review and revise employee benefits, so include insurance or some type of plan to keep employees there. We want to expand distribution channels, so we want to fasten the need to move to wholesale. We want to incorporate some type of vending machine like Sprinkles does nationwide, and we also want to incorporate some type of TikTok page. We want to include customer loyalty programs to get more loyal customers. We want to increase menu options for that pricing constraint as well as the inclusive dietary restrictions, time-based pricing, and we want to utilize that new space after renovation for more partnership events and more educational purposes. And for resulting products is that we're going to increase sales, strengthen marketing channels and customer relationships.
Your time is up. Thank you all.
Thank you.
No, you go the other way this time.
No.
Take a whole time.
Well, so you visited the space?
Yes.
Yes, and you saw that it was in a neighborhood and you could like walk and shop and hang out. So the employee benefits point, Did you happen to have an opportunity to talk to employees other than the owners, or did you only talk to the owners?
No, we only talked to the owners, but that was one of her pain points. So she said it was super hard to get like employees to stay. I think they only had like 4 to 5. So one of our other recommendations, in addition to like offering more benefits, is maybe bringing on a few part-time employees so they could just cover shifts like younger employees rather than aiming for all full-time.
Okay. And then my other question is, do they consider like what they're baking at a particular time? So if they had 10 items on the menu, regular and vegan, are they making sure that their ingredients are able to be distributed appropriately? So like if you're making salad, I know they don't make salads, but you're making salad one day and you try and use the lettuce or use some of the ingredients in other dishes on the menu as well to bring your costs down, but offer variety to the customers. Are they doing something like that when they're planning?
I'm not sure, to be quite honest, yeah.
Not completely sure, but one of their biggest like strengths for the value proposition is to avoid cross-contamination. So I know that that's definitely something for dietary restrictions. So if they're sticking close to that, I'm sure that they're definitely trying to fit that into their revenue and do everything that they can. But we're just completely like not sure yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
At the end, you gave a very long list of many different strategies. And it seems like pursuing space in a Kroger or Meijer versus branching out into vending machines are very different strategies. And so from that list that you gave at the end, what do you think would be, what does the data say would be a good place to start? And second question, do they even have the capacity to scale up given the personnel issues that they've had to be able to be in Kroger or Meijer? Because that's a big increase.
Yeah, so they currently are in Whole Foods. That's the wholesale channel that they use right now. Like they run USA Today, so that's why they have shipping nationwide, because they have like a few customers across the country. But we think that their best focus would be expanding into wholesale within the state of Michigan first, just because they do have that strong Detroit presence. So like targeting maybe the west side of the state, like Grand Rapids or a city up north, might be a little more beneficial for like the funds they have available to put into expanding rather than targeting like the nation as a whole for wholesale.
I'll try to keep this short. You said that the differentiation is the products, partners, and resources. On the resources front, you talked about the space where they can bond and learn to bake themselves, but yet the customers want inclusivity, ambiance, and affordability. So based on your research of what the customers want, how does do they want an area to bond and be able to learn to bake themselves? That's kind of question one. The second part is, you mentioned TikTok and other marketing efforts, and I just wonder, is the customer demographic suggesting that it leans young? Because I think TikTok is geared towards younger generations as opposed to the people that are 40 and older. So I'm assuming that there's a lean towards the younger demographics for the customer base, and just want to get your thoughts on that. So those are the two questions.
I think for that last question you just asked, there is quite more of like a health conscious consumer base, especially in the recent generations. So they're most likely that's kind of the reason we chose to target more of a younger generation, and also just to keep in mind as we're trying to expand Good Cakes and Bakes into more avenues, being more conscious of that. And so there's statistics out there that prove more health conscious the younger the generation is, so that's the main reason why.
Got it.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that for the second question, we were also targeting the younger generation that is away from their families. Like, let's say some of us are here that are not from Michigan and are away from our families. So if this was something that we would see on TikTok, for example, like if it was geared towards us, we would be able to talk to our families about it and say that like there's a place that is 35 or 40 minutes away from campus that would be able to deliver something to us that would taste like what you would have done at home. So that's why TikTok would be very beneficial, even if it's only geared towards the younger generation. And we will take care of the older generation by using other social media platforms such as Facebook and other things like Instagram.
I think it's also very common for TikTok videos to end up on Facebook Reels or Instagram Reels. I'm not sure exactly what you call it on Facebook, but I think there's potential for videos that are maybe used through an app that is a younger generation to end up reaching an older generation as well.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. So we have time for
a 10-minute break now.
All right, we care about you. At Emcura Medical. Emcura is a luxury urgent care with multiple clinics located in Metro Detroit, which boasts integrative medicine and personal health care.
Now, how many of you here have gone to urgent care before? Just a raise of hands. And, you know, with the nods of head, were you always satisfied with your experience there? Okay, so as many of you may agree, there's this continuing dissatisfaction and issue at hand with our current healthcare system, specifically in urgent care businesses in urban communities. And people of all ages and backgrounds utilize urgent cares for all sorts of reasons. We have COVID, we have sprains, cuts, burns, sore throats, cough, and broken bones, and many more. And we've all utilized urgent cares for all sorts of reasons, and the main complaint is that there's just this always constant lack of professional care towards illnesses, long wait time, overprescription of antibiotics, and just this feeling of being undervalued. And many patients feel that their physicians are not spending as much time and attention in providing these care for them. And so this is a real issue that really needs to be addressed and cared for.
So I want to introduce Dr. Manish and Dr. Supak. They have been our great, amazing partners, and they are also an amazing doctor power couple. And they experienced this problem firsthand after working in the healthcare industry for years. They found they had little time to care for their patients the way that they wanted to, and the bottom line always came down to money. That's why they created this solution, Emcura. So I want to paint you a picture of what it's like for a patient to walk into Emcura. They walk in, bright, fresh, clean, and inviting space. At the front desk is a nice lady instead of the grumpy one that's usually scrolling on Facebook and gets mad at you for some reason. You're gonna get help from a doctor who's not just sitting on their iPad tapping away. They're gonna look you in the eyes and have a conversation with you, not just asking you generic questions. When you go home, you might get sent home with antibiotics if that's the solution that's necessary, but you might get sent home with vitamins, a diet change, a lifestyle change. It's not all about the pills. They're not here to be pharmaceutical reps. Lastly, they're here to educate you. They want you to feel confident when you exit those doors, knowing what's going on with you and your body. This is what integrative medicine is. It's an evidence-based approach that uses techniques to heal the whole person, mind, body, and soul. It uses traditional Western medicines along with complementary therapies to heal for optimal healing. The bottom line is that Emcura cares about you and your family.
Now, after interviewing several Emcura patients and reviewing their past testimonials, we've noticed that a lot of Emcura patients are really just receiving this heartfelt experience and care that Emcura really sets out for. Sorry.
It's okay.
You're fine.
Okay. Sorry.
So what we found is that they loved the experience at Emcura because they were friendly, they were professional, and they called back at the end of the service, which is something that not a lot of doctors do. So 2 days goes past, they're gonna call you up, be like, hey, do you have any other questions, any other concerns? We wanna hear about it. And so they really feel like the doctors did a thorough job.
Alright, so this chart kind of shows the Emcura versus competitors in different aspects of healthcare. So as you can see here, Emcura dominates and checks off the boxes that show 4 important aspects of healthcare, which is their staff being educational, providing interpersonal care, being reliable, and the price being affordable. Emcura's biggest competitors obviously do not check off all of these boxes, especially in cases where the staff and the healthcare is educational and the care being interpersonal, which are 2 aspects that Emcura really hammers on.
Okay, so Emcura is changing the healthcare game. They're in a resegmented industry because they're changing how healthcare is being taken care of in how healthcare is being taken care of in urgent cares. In integrative medicine and urgent cares are currently on a growth path as more doctors are turning to personal medicine and integrative medicine, and more patients are looking for it because they want that holistic experience, they want integrative medicine, and they want to be taken care of and not just been sending to a pharmaceutical.
So Emcura being in the medical field, there are important key resources that they need to function, such as certified trained physicians, nurses, and volunteers, telehealth, which is virtual healthcare that they are working on and trying to implement, lab results that deliver results on the same day, as well as protocols and procedures that they have put in place to see and take care of as many patients as possible. So Emcura uses different marketing strategies. Their biggest one that they use in the beginning and currently use right now is the word of mouth. And so they use that experience and service that they pride themselves on to their advantage. The clients that receive the care from them are satisfied with that care and recommend it to their friends and families. This word of mouth marketing strategy is free of cost for Emcura and has really expanded their company in the beginning, has created strong customer relationships, as well as made attaining and retaining customers much easier. They also have partnerships with other smaller clinics where they are able to refer their customers to other smaller clinics as well as vice versa. And so this allows them to tap into different customer segments as well as market to other customers who are looking for other smaller clinics that they can go to.
Insurance reimbursement allots for the majority of Emcura's revenue. Your typical appointment costs $200 to $300, and the insurance will cover 60 to 80% of it. The remaining amount is paid by the patient through a copay, and that typically ends up being $25 to $50. And these revenue streams are multiplied by the multiple clinics that Emcura has.
Okay, so as you can see, the total urgent care industry in the United States is at a pretty high market. It's at almost $46 billion, and Washington Metro, Detroit urgent cares are going to see an increase as more people are frustrated with their healthcare system, like you guys are, and want more integrative personal medicine. And as with already 400 million and growing of a shared market, Emcura has a great market to tap into, and they already have 4 clinics and they are growing, and they're going to take advantage of being one of the first movers in this market.
After interviewing Dr. Manish and Dr. Supak, we found 3 big aspects that we believe Emcura could improve upon in order to make their business more successful. The first of these was, so after interviewing the founders, we found that Emcura does not fully utilize technological resources to their advantage, such as social media and further developing telehealth. The other issue that Emcura had was being understaffed. So being able to find quality employees to fill this need would really help Emcura grow. Lastly, expanding into new areas such as Ann Arbor would allow Emcura to tap into new customer segments. So the following slide will show some suggestions that we believe that would help Emcura grow.
All right, so we really wanted to focus on the Ann Arbor market and getting them excited and ready to be involved with Emcura. So we want them to create a social media presence. Ann Arbor is obviously filled with a lot of college students, and social media is what college students go to when they're looking for information. So we want to get them on Instagram, we want to get them on TikTok, and some ideas that we had to get this moving is they could create kind of an information page and talk about integrative medicine and their passion for it, and give people tips and tricks like what is vitamin A and why would you take it. Or they could kind of create a debunking page. There's a lot of misinformation spread on TikTok, and they could be a trusted source to find actual good, viable information. The second is partnering with university clubs. Obviously, Emcura needs some new employees. They need medical assistants, they need someone to help with their social media, and they need someone to help them grow their telehealth. We think that clubs at the university, such as the marketing club, the pre-health club, and the coding club would love to get in, partner with them. They need real world experience, and they need resume builders. So, and then the third one is organize get to know Emcura events. After doing a little bit of research, we want to get the community to know the Emcura name. One thing that we found was really successful is at Vanderbilt University, they actually hosted a flu palooza. They got a tent, they got music, and they had college students come in, get their flu shot, no appointment necessary. So it's really great for convenience, which we all know college students love.
That's all your time. Thank you.
Great job. Great job. It's funny, just a couple of things and I'll be quick. So there's actually a physician on Instagram. She goes by Dr. Knows Best. She's an ENT and she's always like pulling something out of some kid's nose or whatever. And I'm telling you, like, if I were in her area, I would go because she hasn't made an impression on me. But I do have a couple of comments. So when you talked about the reliability and the price and the like, you can objectively compare the price, but what did you think about when you did the comparison for the word reliability?
So in terms of reliability, there are different components to it. One of them being that sense of they can rely on first the physician and the whole medical care center themselves. So a big aspect that Emcura focuses on is creating that customer relationship. And so one of the big things is giving a call with them after. So it kind of shows that the customers can rely on the physicians because they're the ones who are reaching out to them first rather than the customers reaching out to them, trying to figure out what are the next steps, what are the next procedures and whatnot. And so with the other competitors, they didn't really see that because many of the customers themselves were trying to reach out to the medical care first rather than the medical care reaching out to them.
Got it. Thank you.
You know, so we can just all agree that the urgent care clinics in Ann Arbor area generally are terrible. And I can understand with a luxury wanting to have access to a nice facility, but are U of M students really going to drive 45 to 60 minutes when they don't feel good to go to Detroit?
So their whole thing is they want to open a clinic in Ann Arbor. That's their next step, and that's kind of what they tasked us to do is that they're trying to look for a space in Ann Arbor, but they want us to kind of help them market, get the community excited, get to know the Emcura name. So no, they will not have to drive 25 minutes. That's actually why it's taken so long, is they want to find a space that students can like walk to and stuff, and just not a lot of spaces like that available.
But what makes it better? I mean, I saw the picture, it looks way nicer than pretty much all the urgent cares around here. But aside from the better decor, I think if you were to ask any of the competitors you list, they would say we do offer education, we do quick lab results, we do whatever the other things that you were said. I don't know that those.
I can speak for that. So around the same year, I'm a senior, but when I was a sophomore and when COVID was really predominant, I'm from Bloomfield Hills where Emcura operates, and I could get COVID tests and results in 1 hour from them versus days it would take when I would go to the clinic. So I'd wait 3 hours here and I'd wait 10 minutes in my car in Bloomfield Hills. And my cousin actually went there first and she told me to go there, and I sometimes go there now. My primary care doctor isn't available because I know they're the second best option compared to any other clinic. And I'm right next to Beaumont as well, but I still prefer Emcura. So
exponentially faster lab results.
I mean, I've seen it. I've seen the big difference they provide. It's truly, and they offer you more advice than just simply like, here's a Band-Aid or here's something to fix that. They think more into your holistic health. So, yeah.
Thanks.
Three things. One, kudos for whoever looked up where I went to college and throwing in a Vanderbilt commentary there. On the reward system, my suggestion is the ones that work are when you are able to tie it to, points that are transferable to something that people want. Because a reward system in and of itself, I mean, everybody's got that, right? So if they can partner with somebody, if it's University of Michigan or other vendors, and be able to say, hey, you can use these points with, I mean, ideally like Marriott and Delta Airlines and all that kind of stuff. But I think that might be a helpful tool. And, it's funny you mentioned all the the scale and tech resources and understaffed. The three things I was writing down was like, how are they going to scale this? What are they going to do about hiring people? To your point, it's a competitive market in the space. So what differentiates the environment for Emcura to be able to attract the kind of talent they need to develop? Because I imagine everybody wants the talent, and there's a demand, short supply. So how does Emcura differentiate to get the talent they need?
Well, your first point about the reward system,
Yeah.
I didn't get to quite talk about it, but yeah, we were gonna have, one of the main points was like if you refer a friend, they have a lot of cool like niche kind of examinations, like they do IB therapy, which would be perfect for like post-hangover college students.
Not that that would ever happen.
And then the other point about the talent, I think there's under need for some of the positions, and then there's over demand for other of the positions. Ann Arbor is a pretty big city, so we do have that to tap into. But one of the things they're saying that they needed the most are like medical assistants, which are typically really younger age people, because it's not like a salary really that you could like really live on. It wouldn't be, it's not a base job, so that's why it kind of gets turned over quickly. So that's where these college students every year come in. They could fill those spots, get great resume builders, make connections in the environment. Nursing students, a bunch of nursing students here. We've got a great nursing school. As for more like doctor medicals, I think what would be a turning point for them is that Emcura truly cares about their patients. They truly care about their employees as a family. I worked at an office over the summer, and the women there had been there for 30 years, and they said this wasn't the highest paying job out there. This wasn't like the most technology advanced. It was that their bosses treated them with kindness and respect, and they cared about their family members. And Dr. Supek and Dr. Manish make a huge effort to go into their office every single day at one of their clinics.
And I was gonna mention that, okay, yeah.
Hi everyone, we are representing D.Cipher, a nonprofit by artists for artists. My name is Anna.
I'm Christian.
I'm Julia.
I'm Derek. I'm Thea.
We have a short video to show you.
Students from some of D.Cipher's different events, especially by Neat Gloves Road specifically, get into kind of showing the atmosphere, the energy.
So as you can probably imagine, the music industry is really difficult to navigate. There's a lot going on within it, especially if you're a starting out independent artist. Especially if you have like a lack of connections when you're starting out. There's a lot of competitors, and you also need a lot of resources to produce music, like a studio and equipment. That can be really expensive. It's also difficult to find in-person gigs, especially paid ones. And then the other side of this is venues or just organizations that want to provide an event with entertainment. It can be tough to attract crowds and have a good atmosphere, especially post-COVID. And there's a lot of logistics that go into organizing something like that. So our organization helps fulfill both of those sections.
So D.Cipher has three main customer segments, and we offer a variety of things to each of them. The artist is probably the biggest segment, so they offer them resources, studio time, vocal training, workshops, and things along those lines. For the venues, they get offered pretty much artists perform at their locations and maybe bring in new customers to their spots. And then for the audience, they pretty much get a place to hang out and pretty much just listen to music from Michigan artists.
Okay, so we believe that we have the best collaborators. Some of our partners and sponsors are the Knight Foundation, Detroit Riverfront Conservancy, Detroit Distillery, Musictown Detroit, Lyft, and the public, like all of you guys here. And they have given us a revenue of over $100,000 per last year. So 58% goes to grants, 40% goes to performance contracts, and that's how we pay our artists, and then 2% goes to donations. And so our revenue allows us to put on ciphers for our artists. So that includes like live concerts where the artists can get paid, workshops so they can learn more about the music industry, jam sessions so they can connect with one another, and then as well as studio equipment for those live events. And that cost us around $52,000 a year per last year. 70% went to programming, 15% went to salaries, and then 15% also went to overhead costs like marketing and maintaining our website and such. And so we believe that D.Cipher should create a site for LinkedIn, so it'll work as like an artist library app, and then there's a mock-up there to the side you can see. And so our businesses and partners can log in, they can view the artist profiles, and then they can be able to connect or contract artists. And we believe this will enlarge our markets and therefore increase our revenue.
Yeah, so getting into a little bit why the company was founded and the reason behind it. So not even 70 years ago, Detroit had one of the most prominent music cultures in the world. People would come all over the country and even all over the world to come and enjoy Motown music, which is what the culture was back then. Today, there are still prominent Detroit artists, but most of these artists are kind of bigger picture and they don't have more of a Detroit identity anymore. So D.Cipher was created to give local artists more of an opportunity, more of a voice. So if you can see, D.Cipher is actually a certified nonprofit, and its whole mission, and the reason why it's certified is just to better Detroit's music community and to try and rebuild Detroit's economy as a whole. So going into the specific customer segments, so Derek talked about it a little bit, but specifically, we're looking at local artists in the Detroit and Metro Detroit area, and those are the artists that our team is kind of reaching out towards and trying to acquire talent through. And then the local venues are all mainly Detroit venues, so this is something that we're trying to expand into, but all the venues currently are local in Detroit. And then our events are actually all free most of the time, so local Detroiters have an opportunity to attend any event at any given time without having to pay a fee.
So this is the D.Cipher team. We have Dominique, Wayne, Alondra, and Sophia. Dominique is more in touch with the business management and consulting side of D.Cipher. Wayne is definitely the musical taste of D.Cipher, if you will. Alondra is in charge of mostly project management. She has several years in that. And Sophia is head of strategy and artist booking. But we have the biggest things that we have learned involve artists who want to feel more marketed, so promoting things like promoting artists on platforms like TikTok, social media, Instagram, things like that, providing more room for networking amongst these artists by hosting more events possibly, and having an adequate amount of team members as an emerging business is also very essential, especially for a nonprofit like D.Cipher. And overall providing more chances for these artists to earn more money and grow throughout their platform. And this is a quote from an artist or a musician that we had interviewed previously. He quoted, "Sometimes it's easier to find certain events than others. Studio time and other support can be pricey, which is why there are benefits to being located in a city."
Yeah, so talking a little about what's next. So the first thing we want to mention is that our tagline, by artists for artists, D.Cipher, all the 4 founding members that we mentioned, they're all previous local artists who had some varying degrees of success in the local Detroit area. So that's kind of where their idea of where the struggles and pain points from local artists come from, is because they've gone through it and they've also been able to succeed through it. So for the next year, the main thing that we want to do is create the online library, and this is kind of incorporating that LinkedIn feel of having a LinkedIn Cipher group with all the artists being able to interact with each other, and then also building a database so that recording labels and other agent groups can also use that as a tool to figure out and find talent, because those apps will be able to track how many performances that our artists have, and then just different metrics that maybe those booking agencies could use. So within the next year was that online library. We want to also find specific interns or partners to work on the social media team and work on outreach team specifically. All 4 of the founding team members were working on this as a part-time job, as well as their music career as their part-time job as well. So finding dedicated members would be huge. Growing the social media presence, as we've all mentioned before, social media is very prominent in our youth, and the youth is one of the key drivers behind the entertainment and music industry. And then in the long term, we want to have a full database of these artists. Like I mentioned, this could benefit not only the artists themselves, but potential fans, and then even potential booking agencies. And then just
kind of growing that culture of Detroit music again, and then reestablishing maybe Motown music or reestablishing a new sound for Detroit music, and then rebuilding the Detroit economy is the big goal. Thank you.
So 2 comments. I like that you had the 5-year plan. Right, that was great. To show like where you're going. It's funny, Ken and I were actually talking about that today, like 5-year plans. So one thing I would recommend, and one thing I noticed, so you showed me a sample of the artist that was on the stage just to give me a flavor of the energy. But when you think about the portfolio and folks being able to go online and see an artist, you have to remember that sometimes an artist offers more than just what their splashy song is. Mm-hmm. So even for those artists who are vocalists or who play an instrument or the like, have a video that's like hyped up, way to go, and then something acoustic. Because depending on, I'm part of a social organization, we often try and book local talent to do things. And it's nice to know what a person sounds like if you're more in a quiet venue as opposed to rocking it out on the stage.
Because it's more appropriate to what you're
hiring. So that's, and you can get a little bit greater appeal that way too across different demographics. But is there a target for how much they want to spend on the staffing and the like versus how much they want to be able to give back as part of their talent development and enriching the culture? Have they not thought through that yet?
Yeah, so I think from what we talked to Dominique, she wants to do more of a balance. Like she wants this to be like her full-time job at some point. But then also too, they want to, of course, make money themselves, even though they're not a nonprofit, because that's what they want to do. But then also they want to kind of share that with their community as well. So even though they're, like I said, they're a nonprofit, they have profit in mind, and then they want to become more a part of that in order to receive that, and then hopefully give that back to the community as well.
Okay, thank you.
I think in some ways this is really interesting, and it could be the biggest transformation that we've seen if you're going from generally being an event company to being a technology company that happens to serve musicians. That would be a really remarkable shift in the business model. I'm wondering how feasible it is and why regular LinkedIn wouldn't already do that. Like, do they have any tech training, or do they have any friends who do coding, or and why wouldn't LinkedIn just swoop in and be like, a good idea, we'll just take it from here?
So we came up with the idea because, as Theo had mentioned before, like Detroit used to be like this burgeoning music scene, and D.Cipher is, if not the only, the only one of like our nonprofits or like businesses that have a pulse on the community, and that artists feel comfortable going to, because they're their friends, and then friends tell a friend, so they had like amassed like this large amount of people, and so we don't necessarily know if they have any coding available. We just kind of see that as a future thing, that if they can make a lot of money doing it, that they'll be able to implement that. But we do want to start off with some sort of artist library, so businesses or partners can see, even if it's just like a hyperlink, that like, hey, this is what I do. Maybe they have other skills or talents that the businesses need. So that's kind of where we see it.
I guess also to add on to that, originally the reason why the company was started was it was almost just like a group of friends kind of like texting each other, trying to find more opportunities and gigs. So we thought that kind of early atmosphere was what we're recreating with the LinkedIn sort of thing. And the only reason why we wouldn't, I guess, use already existing social media platform is they have Facebook and they do have Instagram where they follow other artists, connect with other artists. But it seems like the engagement is just, it's actually like zero. So there's just like no like collaborating going on. And also D.Cipher, their collective group kind of mission is to help each other. So we thought that the LinkedIn would be a great way because it's more of like a professional-ish setting. So then you can actually like find specific opportunities where it's like, oh, like my music or my talent matches with this person. Whereas like in a Facebook setting, I think it's a little more casual or more like social media based. So they're not as professional, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. One comment and one question. The comment is, I think there are other areas in where you can book time. For example, like if I want to my son to have a violin lesson with this particular performer. There's like a lot of different kind of apps and tools out there. Some are good, some are not, and it may be worthwhile to like get a comparison and an analysis of which ones are more effective in attracting, a customer's, whether it's usability, just there's a lot of factors that go in it. So just a comment to, maybe look at that. The one question I had is you had a short year, the next year plan, you said interns and partners, right, for instead of full-time staff. I understand the interns part. What do you mean by partners to fill the void? Like what partners are you looking at to fill that?
I guess what we were kind of more notioning towards for partners was in terms of like venues, and then also one of the things that we didn't mention too much about, but we wanted D.Cipher to try and explore maybe like organizations, maybe specifically at universities is what we talked about, like music programs and such. So our partners were more trying to establish like consistent either like entertainment space or have like a consistent, I guess, customer base, which we hopefully could get that through like partnering with groups or with like different, I guess, like entertainment groups in the city. But we're not exactly sure. Like we haven't identified specific partners, nor have we even identified like specific schools. Yeah.
All right, thank you guys.
Go ahead. How you doing? We're Boaz Bikes. I'm Anderson. I'm Johnny.
Eva.
I'm Danny. I'm Mikey. So in our economy, we've seen that prices are rising almost everywhere, and that can make it particularly hard to navigate around a big city. When you think about cars, gas prices are rising, car insurance is expensive, and there's generally nowhere to park in a big city, so that's tough as well. And then Uber and Lyft, that's not a cheap endeavor as well, and it can come with a long wait time. Then you think about public transportation. Public transportation is great, but it's usually crowded. It's disgusting. I don't know if you've ever been on a subway in a big city. It's not the most pleasant ride you've ever been on. And then it's also probably not the most efficient way to travel around a big city. And it can be super unsafe at certain times and in certain places. And then other micromobilities such as Spin, Bird, Lime, those either just don't work or they can be super unsafe as well. I've seen multiple people take tumbles on those things. I myself have fallen off one. It might have been late on a Saturday night, but hey,
okay.
You know what I'm talking about. But that's here or there. The point is, if I had something sturdier, I probably would have been safe, right? So at Boaz, we aim to fix a solution. With our bike, it's super affordable. If you purchase it one time, it's relatively around the same prices as a bike or electric scooter. It's clean. There's no wait. You can pick one up and go. It's easy to park. And then the safety features are what kind of set us apart from other people. It has it's a wider base with bigger tires for different terrains, side mirrors on the side to see your surroundings, and then also it has indicators on each side to let traffic know like which way you're turning. And it's also fun. So we're going to see what it looks like. The time of their lives on this.
So as you can see, that looks really fun. So Boaz Bikes is changing the game. Our target demographic is city dwellers, and so Boaz Bike is basically a seated electric bike scooter hybrid that allows city dwellers to safely and efficiently get from point A to point B at an inexpensive rate. So just a closer look at the Boaz. As you can see, there's like a number to like go with like what the part of the bike is. So the Boaz seat, it lowers your center of gravity, which makes for a safer and smoother ride. The side mirrors, as he mentioned, it gives you a more complete view of your surroundings. There's also traffic signalers to show you which way you should go. And then also compared to like the other scooters that you see on like Lime or Spin, it's a larger foot deck, which allows you to put both of your feet on the foot deck. And then Also bigger tires that help you go over like potholes and cracks. And then this is something that's very different from other scooters. It has a foldable neck so that it allows you to transport from place to place. And then there's a basket in the back of the bike, which is normally in the front, and it allows you to keep your items safely on board. And then the final thing is the industrial kickstand, which cuts down on vehicle tip-overs.
Yeah, so how does Boaz Bikes make money? Well, the current revenue streams are comprised of monthly rentals, which is via a subscription-based model, and a direct purchases from their website. Last year, the total revenue was $550,000, which is a 300% increase year over year from the year prior. Cost sat at 35%, giving us a profit margin of 65%. The month-over-month growth is going strong at 10 to 20% growth. Essentially, as fleet size and the number of operating cities increase, revenue and profit increases. From our customer discovery, we suggest that increasing awareness of the product and its very desirable features, which would initially incur higher marketing costs, but the upside of more fleets and more cities that we're going to expand to will greatly outweigh the marketing costs. So where are we in the market? Currently, we look to be operating in the domestic electric scooter industry, which takes up $10 billion, $2 billion of which is serviceable. So we could plan to expand there. Currently, we only occupy 1 million market share. Since we're experiencing tremendous growth year over year, month over month, I could safely say that we are still in the growth stage. The reason why we have such strong tailwinds boosting our growth is that we occupy a resegmented market, such as that Boaz Bikes provides a differentiated value proposition over competitors.
So here's the Boaz team. You have the founder, who is Emil, Corey, Christiana, and Raphael. A little bit about Emil. The reason the Boaz Bikes company was started was because he witnessed a tragic accident where someone fell off a scooter, and being an entrepreneur he instantly came up with the idea of, why not build a bike or scooter that is built around safety, where he said, all right, let's put something that has something you can put your feet on, something that has low gravity, where you're centered or you're closer to the ground. It's more controllable. It's easier to ride. You have mirrors so you can see behind you. You're not always having your head on a swivel. And of course, it's just safer and easier, and it's easy for the communities.
So we've been helping out this company for the whole year, and we really wanted to improve the company. And we thought one way of doing that was to improve the actual scooter. One way we did that was a more stronger pull, and we had 2 of them in there to have it more sturdy. Also make it extremely more structurally sound. You can now customize the bike. We switched the color of that turquoise-ish blue to a more darker blue. You can now ride the actual bike as a bike with the pedals on there that we added. Or if you want to cruise, just cruise on it. We added a lid on the basket so you can close it, which will make it easier to hold your belongings in there. Where you can find us. An issue that we also found with this company was their online content. We think a great resource for this team would add a group of pros who could go in there and they could check on the Instagram account. They could update the Instagram account because it's pretty outdated and they don't have any real frequent posts on it. This company does not have a TikTok account. We believe that adding a TikTok account would be great to reach a younger audience. And the website, it's extremely outdated, just like the Instagram account. And we believe if a team of pros was in there that could help them run it, we could reach a larger audience.
And then for the future roadmap, one of the big opportunities for Boaz Bikes is obviously college campuses such as Ann Arbor or Vanderbilt. Doesn't count. And then obviously bigger cities, more cities such as Chicago, Kansas City, Boston. Boaz is a great spot for any major mid-market city. And then obviously one of the big opportunities as well is to implement our new Boaz bike, update the features like Danny just talked about. We think that would be a big opportunity for revenue increase as well as adding to big cities and college campuses. And we think that if they update the bike, it could reach a younger audience as well, and it would just overall impact the company in a very positive way. So thank you for your time.
Okay, did any of you ask why the business was named Boaz?
No, we didn't.
And
actually, I think I saw. I just read it over at one point, but like they had a specific reason for naming it Boaz. It was supposed to be like spin, lime, bird. They're all like short names, and they were looking for something that could like easily like enter the market as like something easily like, you know, to be able to like capture it quickly. Short and sweet, basically.
Okay. I was just curious because there actually is a person who's named Boaz, and what Boaz did was when an individual returned from doing work, Boaz made sure that they always had more than what they ever needed and that they were very well taken care of. So I didn't know if that was a separate context behind the name, but I digress. So the one thing is looking at the design modifications that you made, and even looking at the demographic of people who were riding the bikes in the video, did you happen to talk to the team about some of the design modifications or not yet?
Well, one of our huge things with the design modification is obviously, like you said, people in that video, it's kind of an older audience. So with making it more active with pedals and stuff like that and then college campuses, we're trying to reach a younger audience. That goes with our TikTok page, Instagram, kind of just updating their whole social media. So we're reaching a younger audience. And then once you reach there, it's probably a smoother transition into college campuses because now people know about the bike, students will use it, they'll know how to use it. So that's kind of where we were going with design modification.
And how do you charge it?
So that's, again, through the revenue streams, there's direct purchases on the website. You could do a one-time purchase for the bike.
Oh, no, I mean, how do you power the bike?
Oh, okay. So basically, it's via subscription model, which is very much like the lime, spin, bird, and essentially it's through. Well, are you talking about like the actual?
How do I get momentum to move my body on the bike?
So after you activate it via the smartphone app, right? The bike itself will know that there's a current rider on it, and then there's a battery pack. It's electric powered, so there's battery pack, and you can just use it like you would as a scooter, but it has a seat, so it's like it knows when you're on it and when you're not.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
How heavy are these things?
They're roughly no more than 5 pounds. They're actually quite light. The whole point is that they're portable. They have a foldable neck as well, so you can get the whole purpose is the first and last mile solution. Right.
So you could take it on the bus. Like you could load it on if you had a bus that had the front rack for bicycles. Can you put it on one of these?
Yes.
I think that is like what they're trying to do, so that you can transport it from like transportation to transportation. Go take it to the city.
Yeah. Fold your handlebars down. All those things.
The one thing I'll finish on is we started off with a joke about Friday night or Saturday night, I can't remember which, but the let's say there's a drunk student and they ride this for safety first was a great pitch. I think that's the starting message of safety is good, but a lot of times all these bikes that you see in the media or otherwise, they're like tossed somewhere, they're not put back where they belong, and what that eventually leads to is the profitability equation, and a lot of these companies go down because either they have to replace products, they have issues with their charging model, and just looking at the pricing, I go, how will this company actually be able to your point, you were saying, I think you individually said, by branching out, they'll be able to drive more revenue and profitability by expanding and larger scale. I agree with the revenue part. Profitability entirely depends on where, how profitable it is in each of these segments, because larger scale doesn't necessarily mean profitability. So I think that's an element you probably want to dig into a little deeper. And then the thing that I think was tied to what Stephanie was saying about the charging equation, when I saw the video, it wasn't charging at that point in time, meaning it wasn't charging the battery. And I go, what is the equation to solve, are they going to, once you rent it out, are you going to drop it off at a charging station to be able to charge? Is it an easy hookup? Like, if I want to rent it out for a longer period of time, is it easy enough to like plug into, I don't know, at 240? Like, I'm just curious how that operation works. So those are my comments.
To that question directly, yes, it's the whole purpose. If you do the direct purchase, is you can charge it at home, much like you can do with any personal electric scooter.
Yeah.
And I could actually hit two birds with one stone, both questions
Okay.
throughout. Basically, also why the prices are a bit higher, also the costs are a bit higher, is because they actually have a service that goes around. Each bike has their own GPS, right? So they can actually see where each bike is placed. They actually place them in the cities strategically so that they could maximize kind of, seeing not just a group of them together, but like throughout the city. And then around a week or two, they have like for specifically the COVID safety measures, they would see like check the map and see where each one is, take them back, charge them, upkeep them, and sanitize them most importantly, and then put them right back out.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm ready.
All right, so let's get started. So, hi everyone, my name is Kevin. With me are Mono, Peter, Isabella, and Risha. We're representing Blue Conduit, and together, let's get the light out. So, clean drinking water should be a fundamental right for all humans. However, that is not the case right now. The U.S. Engineering Research Department Center estimates there to be 10 to 13 million lead pipes in the U.S. municipal water system. And the lead exposure leads to various health problems and affect our everyday lives. Currently, cities and their partners are trying to figure out where those lead service lines are. However, right now they're just using an outdated method of sending their teams out to look for those pipes by digging, and that's a very time-intensive process. And also, in the case that it is incorrect, they have to cover the cost of recovering everything to the way it was. So this leads to increased cost and also delays in lead removal, which will impact the residents and how long they have to be living with those lead exposure.
So clearly this is a huge issue, and we wanted to talk with local residents to see if they were also experiencing the effects of this problem. So we met with Rhonda Stevens, who is the vice president of W.T. Stevens Construction Company. And this company actually directly works with lead removal services, and they do the excavating themselves. And we learned quite a lot from this conversation. Some of the biggest key takeaways were that water quality issues impact citizens of all ages. So it's pretty much it's not just gonna hit one person or another person, it's gonna hit a wide range of them. Moreover, as I mentioned earlier, lead pipe locating is lengthy. It can take from around 45 minutes to 2 hours, and again, it might not even be successful, so all that work could have been done for nothing. And on top of that, the labor, machinery, and materials that are needed take up a majority of specifically this company's budget as well as others. Something that was very cool that not cool, but interesting that we noticed was that Rhonda really had no prior knowledge of Blue Conduit or what services they provided. And she had a very strong desire for a more efficient way to locate lead pipes and to potentially work with Blue Conduit in the future.
So what is Blue Conduit? Blue Conduit is a data analytics software platform that utilizes proprietary machine learning technology to predict the material of different service lines. So Blue Conduit envisions a future where there is no longer lead in the water. And currently they maintain an accurate lead service line inventory. They improve planning, reduce costs, provide replacement priorities based on triaging the risk of potential exposure. They utilize, like I mentioned, proprietary machine learning technology that achieves a greater than 80% hit rate. And they utilize a data-driven approach which prioritizes citizens at the highest risk of exposure.
And so we know what you're thinking, how could this possibly work? And we have a quick little clip to show you all. And essentially what Blue Conduit does is they take existing data and they inspect it, and they combine that with their software, and then they create a recommended inspection list through that so they can dive a little bit deeper. And then they verify that the service lines do indeed have lead or are at a high risk of lead. And then they model the probable service line materials, and then they basically give a range of probability of lead in these service lines. So is it confirmed? Is it unknown? Is it unlikely? So this really allows cities to decide where they want to go in and where they want to start replacing things and excavating.
People are loving Blue Conduit. For example, we have Gary Brown from the Detroit Water and Sewage Department and also Kristen from Trenton Waterworks. They see Blue Conduit's value proposition and how we can help them reduce their cost. Additionally, Blue Conduit was also voted one of the top 100 inventions by Time Magazine of 2021.
Blue Conduit has three main sources of recurring revenue. The main one includes municipalities, so they mainly work with cities around the area. Right now they're working currently with over 100 cities, including Detroit, Trenton, Toledo. And then they also work with engineering companies and construction companies who need better ways of locating lead service lines with more cheap and cost-effective methods. Now, to preface some of these numbers that we have up here, since Blue Conduit does mainly work with government agencies and municipalities, it is hard to, they don't have direct numbers for the product because of different areas, like the size of the area, and then just NDAs to the government. So we use a similar software service that is also sold to governments to calculate this data. So our current obtainable market is going to be $75 million, which includes the 100 plus cities that we have. And then moving forward from that, the United States would be the serviceable available market, which includes up to over 5,000 cities, and it's going to be $500 million. And then globally, we estimate that the market size is going to be $1.5 billion with over 10,000 cities.
So for a brief competitive analysis, I'll be comparing Blue Conduit to one of its top competitors, 120 Water, which is another service line inventory-based company. And so kind of comparing for one, which has better technology. So like I mentioned, Blue Conduit has a proprietary machine learning technology which it utilizes that achieves a greater than 80% hit rate, which is one of the highest hit rates out in the market at the moment. To what's more well known, 120 Water definitely has a stronger marketing presence at the moment, and Blue Conduit doesn't have as dedicated or really have a dedicated sales team created yet, but that could be attributed to the fact that they are a fairly new company. Better partnerships, both companies have similar partnerships, but Blue Conduit definitely has certain bigger companies that they're partnering with, like Google.org, which is helping them develop more, software tools. More established 120 Water has been out for a little longer, and Blue Conduit was just created in 2019. Faster for the overall process of locating lead pipes, triaging risk, and actually going ahead and removing them. Blue Conduit goes ahead and does an overall faster job.
So that being said, we have three key next steps. The first one is to increase customer outreach. The second one is to sharpen community relations, and the third is to improve reputation. And in the next few slides, Peter's going to go over in detail how we intend to implement this into Blue Conduit's current business model and scheme.
Okay, so some of the key aspects of their business model that we really wanted to focus in on are their partnerships. Currently, they're partnered with a bunch of engineering companies to help get the lead pipes out, as well as the municipal water systems. We want them to also look at clean water activist groups and politicians to help get the word out and have them advocate for their cities to use Blue Conduit software, as well as more government foundation grants that sort of help fund their research and development of this software, and we think that they should chase after more of those funds from the EPA and other organizations to help fund their marketing efforts as they continue to grow their clientele and increase their capacity that they can. We also want to see them do some demos in target cities and target regions. We feel like that's much more efficient than going out individually to talk with specific clients. We also think an additional way they could provide value to customers would be by looking at other biohazards, such as PFAS, asbestos, pollution, mold, things like that, because once the lead pipes are out, the relationship with the client kind of ends there, and they can extend those relationships by moving into other spaces there. And so with regards to improving their relationships with customers, we basically just want to focus on outreach and improving the name of Blue Conduit, since they are such a new business that are relatively unknown, as we learned with our interview with Rhonda. So we want them to focus on CRM, customer feedback, and building out their marketing to market to families, because young children are most affected by lead poisoning, to really solidify their place in the market.
We just want to give Ian a big thank you for being our entrepreneurship partner and meeting with us, and thank you for your time.
So I have a question, and I need you to not judge me. So, a couple things. You talked about the machinery being expensive, right? And then separately, your point was about what happens when they remediate all the lines, and they have a couple of other things as well. Has there been any discussion for Blue Conduit about like how do you move machinery, or how do you repurpose machinery, or how do you extend the longevity of Blue Conduit with the physical assets that they have?
Take that one. So Blue Conduit actually is strictly software as of right now. So what they do is they give the information to cities, and then cities do the excavation themselves.
Okay,
So
got it.
yeah, so they don't necessarily have to worry about, you know, the actual machinery and worrying about how that's going to be repurposed.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So my other point, this is the one where you might judge me. If I'm an activist group and I know that Blue Conduit is turning a profit off of the software, as an activist group, am I compelled to work with you because you're making money off of people in a situation of addressing where there are children who might have their water contaminated or the like? Like, is Blue Conduit really the nice entity that the what's a environmental company called? You know, environmentals are us. Whatever the nonprofit is called. I was curious about that too. Like, for an entity that's taking a profit to go to a nonprofit that is advancing a cause, or is that a little bit of oil and water?
I think personally there's an overarching theme in activist groups just to better the environment they're currently in. And being that Blue Conduit is not a nonprofit, I think that there is some sort of understanding that they are going to be turning some sort of revenue into profit. And I don't think that it should personally be that shouldn't like deter activist groups from working with us, because I think there's just one main goal of getting the lead out. If anybody else wants to touch on that.
I mean, another spin on that too is Blue Conduit could actually take a portion of their profits and donate it to some of these organizations, which might make a really nice like
full circle.
Full circle thing. Yeah, but very cool idea. Very cool idea.
Suggestion.
I thought kudos for bringing up the customer retention strategy of looking for other biohazards. I thought when you started this, the only way that the company could grow was to constantly be acquiring new customers, because we got the lead out, we're done, and we're out. And it's so much harder to acquire new customers than to go back for repeat sales and focus on customer retention. So I thought that was really smart.
One comment I had was, you know, if
only one?
Just I know I'm running out of time. I'm almost checking. Is if you want to, once you achieve a certain level of scale and recognition within the industry, is, you know, if you want to create a certification in this space with some of the competitors to go, hey, in order to help the people more, what if we join forces with the, I can't remember the competitor's name, but like with these others, form 120, form like an industry group that sets the standards for if you want to enter this space, because if you're the first players, like you get to kind of set the standard, and it's, you know, run afoul of antitrust laws and everything else. So just a suggestion to go, okay, well, if we're showing greater than 80%, if they're whatever, 70%. Maybe the standard is that you can jointly agree to is 70% is the bar to be certified to offer this service in this space, and then you can go out and kind of market yourselves as a certified player by this industry group. So just a thought as well.
Really good suggestion, thank you.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I'm gonna piggyback on that. So if you looked at something that you plug in, have you seen like the little UL with the circle around it? So it's like, it's basically for something that you plug in the wall, it has to be certified. How our phones talk to each other, how Wi-Fi works, all those things are standards. Like there's a set of rules. In order to use the thing, everyone plays by the rules. Bluetooth works by the same standard. But to Ken's point, if you get in on the ground floor, you set the rules for everyone behind you. It's an extremely powerful position to be in. In addition, the regulators, when they're looking to say, okay, this is how this is gonna work, or if you ever have to communicate with stop signs or, stoplights or any other infrastructure, if you were there for the initial planning, it's very lucrative also. Another monster comment. I'm like,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a great point, thank you.
Yeah.
thank you. Sorry, thank you, Emma. Thank you.
What's that? All right, everybody. So we'll give our panelists a few moments to pull things together, and we're going to do something that we haven't done in previous years. I'm going to ask our panelists to confer for a few minutes and give us their top 3 choices.
Let's go home.
I see that Ian has joined. I think Ian thought that we'd be going later than we're going. But, Ian.
My mistake for looking at the, sorry, I guess I missed them.
Well, you know, it went faster than we thought it was going to go, but the Blue Conduit team did a good job for you. I think you'll be. I'll send you the video.
That would be great. Thank you so much. And I had a great time working with the students, so I'm sad that I missed the presentation.
Well, we really appreciate it, and we need to catch up because I want to see how you guys are doing and where things are right now.
Most certainly. So let's get a meeting going, and I'm looking forward to seeing the students' video. But thank you so much for including us this semester, and hope to continue participating.
All right, so we talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Love you.
Hello. Okay.
All right. Hello. All right. First of all, we just collectively wanted to say nice job. That was really well done. There were a lot of things we learned from all of your presentations, so that was really good. So on average, I'll just in no particular order, our top 3 are Emcura, Boaz, and Blue Conduit. Now, having said that, a round of applause for those 3 teams. I just want to highlight that none of us had the same top 3, so we were having to average out. There were a couple of them that were on a unanimous top 4 list, but we had to really average out to figure almost unanimous top 4. But it was the comments from all the way around were. We were very impressed with all the preparation, the questions that we were asking. You were able to answer on the spot. Clearly, you did research that we didn't expect you to have answers to at times. So I just want to commend you for all of your hard work. So thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for our panelists about anything? You know, we don't get much of a chance to confer because it's a long night. But if you have any questions while they're here, a couple people from General Motors, we almost had Reggie's friend from IBM.
And his mid-story to this group about Venezuela and Japan.
I don't know that they want to listen to that.
Well, and we have the director of the Detroit Neighborhood Entrepreneurship Project. One of the things that we would like to do is to get more businesses into the mix of the course. And so, any advice you can give or anything about what was difficult about working with your UEP? I know there were some difficulties, so maybe you want to indicate some of that.
We had difficulty communicating with ours a lot. Just like obviously they're business owners, so they're very busy, like answering emails and stuff. Is kind of tough. So I guess like seeking out businesses. I'm not sure how you would do this, but like making sure the businesses that commit to doing it like understand the time commitment that it will take on their part too, to like make sure that there's a successful project from it.
About how much time would you say that you spend for a good project talking? How much time would a business owner expect to spend?
Yeah, so we went to Good Cakes and Bakes. So we got to talk to the founder there for like 10 to 15 minutes, and then we did an hour interview outside of that. But then we didn't really hear from her other than that, even though we emailed her, I'd say like 3 or 4 times. So I feel like the 1 hour gave us like a lot of the information we needed initially, but just like maybe collectively another hour is just like answering questions that come up, or like hopping on a random call at the end to like make sure we have every like thing we need would be helpful. So like honestly no more than like 3 to 4 hours, I feel like.
So none of you had standing meetings with your team?
Yeah, we made it ad hoc. We made it clear to the urban entrepreneur partners that they were expected to respond to emails and calls and stuff, but I didn't want to intimidate them by having a schedule, because I found in the past if we say it's going to be an hour a week or 2 hours a week, people got a little antsy about that. So we just asked them to respond. But here's I have 2 questions related to the design of the course. One of them motivated by Stephanie. It's useful to get these kinds of questions that you all ask from your different perspectives, right? Your professional perspectives, your experience. And one of the things we talked about, is there a way to get that done earlier in the course so that, maybe we have a group of people come in and work with the teams apart from what Reggie and I and Emma would do, and just hear what you're planning, hear what you're thinking about, so that, you can get some of these questions earlier. Do you think that would help? Or, is it, yes?
Well, I think the issue is that questions came up at random times. So, like, let's say you made people come in like week 5. We might not have hit those like an area or like a time period in which we need answers. For example, our group, we met with Ian one time at the beginning of the semester, and then honestly just one more time, I'd say like 3/4 of the way through, and that was perfect.
Yeah.
But I know like other groups have to talk to their their mentors a little bit more frequently, or like at other periods of time. So I just don't know how that would work out in terms of like each team's different.
Yeah. We did something in the distant past that we call the Entrepreneurs Studio, where we had entrepreneurs come in like 6 different stations, right? And the student teams would rotate from entrepreneur to and ask different questions of different ones, right? You get a lot of feedback from people, and it may not be the thing you're working on right at that time, but there's an opportunity for interaction earlier in the semester. But that takes a class session, and so there's something else that we're not doing, right? So I'm just curious about that. The other main thing, you guys gave us some good feedback, some good suggestions earlier in the semester on additional businesses that we might encounter, like the Halal Boys, or what was the place that did the micro mobility flying machines in Detroit. So I'm going to follow up on some of those things. But one of the things that I'm thinking about as a strategy for this class is having a list of businesses that you can work with, right? Like, you had the choices this semester, but also to say to you, if you have a business that you're interested in working with, something you're interested in, maybe it's something in public health or something in, a field that you're interested in, you can propose that business as one that we would incorporate in the course that semester. We'd have to do it early on. But is that something that would be of interest, do you think, to students?
I think that'd be really cool. Also, I don't know how much overlap there is, but identifying businesses that have a location in Detroit, but also Ann Arbor. So it's just convenient for us.
Easier for customer discovery.
Yeah.
Anybody else have a feeling about being able to propose a specific business and use that business in the course? I know people are interested in electric vehicles. Somebody might be interested in, energy sustainability, nuclear fusion. I don't know, but yes.
I know in our previous class, Abby, if you want to touch on it, it's kind of a similar situation. Abby had her own business that we ended up working on as a group. I thought it was pretty beneficial.
Is that what you proposed over at Zell Lurie?
Yes.
Okay.
But same, like what Theo said, I think it would help to have businesses that people are specifically interested in.
Yeah. I mean, when I was a student, I was interested in specific things, right? So it wouldn't necessarily, if there was something on the list I was interested in, great. But if I could choose something, and so and again, we've done similar things to this in previous courses where I remember in IOE 422 way back when, every student was required to come in and propose an idea, right? And then students chose which ideas they wanted to go forward with. So in a similar manner, students could propose a urban entrepreneur partner that they want to work with, and if a group of students want to work with that partner, boom, that's a team. So I'm thinking about structuring something like that, maybe not this semester, but in the fall. Do you have any questions at all or any issues for our partners?
I just had a comment, maybe just having, for us it was a little hard sometimes because they were like very established already, so maybe companies that are earlier on in like the process of becoming a company.
Or indicating where they are in the process, yeah. I mean, we had, ShotSpotter is a NASDAQ listed, $50 million company, and then we had Boaz Bikes, which is, just getting started. So yeah, it's probably useful to highlight up front, what the situation is with each of these companies. Anything else? Any other? Yes.
I had a question for our panelists.
Yep.
Thank you guys, obviously, for spending your time with us today. But I wanted to ask, I guess this is a two-part question. Specifically with serial entrepreneurs, do you guys see common traits / maybe common pathways that people become like a serial entrepreneur per se? And then on top of that, is it still possible nowadays to just be like an entrepreneur and have no other job title and / what does that entail even?
So I'll answer that. So the thing I've seen with serial entrepreneurs is just a myopic hunger and focus on the thing that you're working on. And you can actually make a really good analogy to folks who are in fund development. So I raise money for the American Heart Association. And then you leave that job and you go raise money for the Boys and Girls Club, right? Now, is it that you hate heart disease all of a sudden? No, that's not the case. But your focus and what you exude is the new thing that you are in. So I do think it is very possible to be a serial entrepreneur, and oftentimes that initial business is what fuels your follow-up businesses and you keep cascading. I think I heard a speaker once say that the best entrepreneurs find the failures of others and use their blood as the oil in the engine of their new machine. So for example, hotels failed people when it came to experience and being comfortable, being able to make your own breakfast and all those other things, and just being really generic. And the blood of that failure is the oil of the machine of Airbnb and VRBO. So when you think of it like that, yes, and guess what? Airbnb and VRBO, they sometimes have issues with what happens in the unit and the like, and then someone else can come and make a business to improve something there. So yes, I do think it's possible to be a serial entrepreneur and to be successful as long as you have that focus and that drive.
I want to be a serial entrepreneur like Kellogg's.
Okay.
Frosted Flakes. Can we get everybody to come up here, and we'll have our partners stay seated. Have everybody come up. We're going to get a group picture.
Still dressed like that.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Thank you.